The Ontario government has announced details on its plan to relocate the Ontario Science Centre to Toronto's waterfront. The CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick is at the Ontario Legislature. So, Megan, tell us more about what you're expecting to hear about the government's plans.
Well, the public first learned of this plan back in April when Premier Doug Ford and the Infrastructure Minister Kinga Surma said that they intended to close down the existing facility, which is in the northeast part of the city, and build a new science centre down at the waterfront on the site of Ontario Place as part of this whole redevelopment of Ontario Place, which has been quite controversial here, in part because part of that redevelopment includes a private company building a big water park and spa facility. Back in the spring, Surma said she would release the business case to show that it's more cost efficient to close down the existing building and build a new one. But it's taken until now to actually release that report, Arthi. It is out now, and the government's saying, according to their analysis, that it would save Ontario taxpayers some $257 million over a 50-year period to move the Science Centre to Ontario Place. Now, there's a bunch of numbers in this report, a couple other key ones to highlight. They're saying that the existing building, which is over 50 years old, requires hundreds of millions of dollars in needed capital repairs and to upgrade and modernize their facility. They're saying some of the exhibits and spaces haven't been updated since the Science Centre opened more than 50 years ago, that there's been declining visitor attendance, that the layout of the current building is inefficient. And they are saying in this business case that opening a new one at Ontario Place is a good fit. It makes more sense. And it fits with the government's vision for this new Ontario Place. Take a listen to Michael Lindsay. He's the CEO of Infrastructure Ontario.
Relocation of the OSC, its modernization can be a single capital investment that benefits two government priorities: the viability for the long term of the Ontario Science Centre and expediting the redevelopment of Ontario Place by delivering an anchor tenant to occupy, amongst other things, the vacant pods and Cinesphere which are being rehabilitated, and ultimately to make Ontario a family-friendly destination.
Now, the pods and the sphere are sort of iconic parts of the Ontario Place site right now. Those pods are sort of those elevated, rectangular-looking things, and the sphere is an IMAX theater. The new plan will maintain those facilities and incorporate them into this new Ontario Science Centre, as well as building a brand new building, which will be smaller than the existing one, Arthi, but they're saying it will contain more exhibit space, more programmable space in the new facility. So there are no timelines. We didn't hear details on that in terms of when the existing one will close its doors to the public and when this new one will open. There are a lot of details still to be worked out.
And now, Megan, the opposition parties, of course, aren't happy about the plans for the Science Centre or for Ontario Place, rather. So what are they saying now?
Exactly, yeah, they're opposed to all of this. They think the Science Centre should stay where it is. In that briefing, by the way, that we heard, they did make a note of saying previous governments have looked at moving the Science Centre off its existing site. But Marit Stiles, the NDP leader, saying where it is located, it's very important to that local neighbourhood and that community. It provides jobs for a lot of people, for example, and she is accusing Doug Ford of taking those jobs away and taking a vital hub away from that community. She also questions the numbers in this business case and saying, you know, these 50-year estimates are not reliable. These are shaky, shady estimates, and that there's still many unanswered questions here. Take a listen to what else she said.
And my conclusion is that this business case is nothing more than just a 78-page shell game, just to justify this government scheme to build a luxury spa at Ontario Place. I think it raises more questions than it answers about, again, why the Premier is so obsessed with what seems to be a very shady deal. And it's clear that this is a government that will stop at nothing, even folding the Science Centre into this scheme, just to get the Premier what he wants.
Now, Premier Ford and Kinga Surma, the infrastructure minister in charge of this file, both defending the plans in question period here in the legislature this morning, not backing down from these plans and being critical of the opposition parties for not supporting them. Arthi?
Thanks for the latest on this, Megan. That is the CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick at the Ontario Legislature.